All right, so the time is 7 p.m. Call the meeting to order. If we may have roll call.
Director Prather,
Here for a change.
Director Covington,
Here.
Director Gabriel,
Here.
Director Hill, Director Thorpe.
Perfect. All right, next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Prather, if you'd kindly lead us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item are announcements. We'll start with Chief. Do we have any announcements?
No announcements. The commissioners' dinner was canceled for this week, but that's the only announcement.
Any announcements from board members?
I have one.
Yeah, please.
So I just wanted to take an opportunity to share with our audience here and my fellow board members something that I experienced last week. I had a front row seat last week for about 30 hours out in Crockett as we prosecuted that petrochemical fire. And when I say we, I mean specifically the Rodeo-Hercules Fire Protection District, along with a bunch of other contributors as well. But one thing I wanted to share here tonight, and I wanted to commend Chief Craig and our battalion chief, Darren Johnson, and all of our firefighters who supported that event. The call came in just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Minutes later, engine 75 was on scene. We were actually the second engine in, followed closely by Battalion 7 Battalion Chief Darren Johnson, and followed closely behind that by, I believe, Chief Craig. I don't have visibility to all the things that our individual firefighters did, but I can tell you that they were in a very dangerous and risky situation down there in that tank farm, because I was down there with them for the first half hour or so. It was unpredictable, chaotic, and no one knew exactly what was going to happen as we sort of sorted that out. But all of our firefighters worked professionally and competently and did all the right things to prevent what could have been a major disaster. But what I really wanted to say was I don't have specific visibility to what our individual firefighters did, but I do have visibility to this. And what I wanted to share is that Darren Johnson and Chief Craig were there at the right time. They called for the right resources in the very first few minutes of that incident, including something called the PMAL, which on TV I could never remember how to say, but I'm gonna get it right now. The Petrochemical Mutual Aid Association, I guess, which was exactly what we needed, because none of us across the county has the ability to fight fires like that without their help. The other thing that Darren Johnson did was he immediately called for hazmat. It had originally been dispatched as a commercial fire, and that became very important in the hours that were to follow. Chief Craig was up at the incident command post, and he was providing expert guidance to our incident commander, who happens to be a volunteer firefighter, Chief Dean Colombo from the Crockett-Carquinez Fire Department, which it was their incident, and a great and competent and professional leader in his own right, but Chief Craig was up there giving him the right guidance and support when it needed to be done. And I just wanted to, in spite of what you may hear in some of the news accounts about things that maybe didn't go as well as one thinks, we dodged some pretty significant bullets that day, and our little fire district right here in Rodeo-Hercules was right front and center, and they played a critical role. If it hadn't been for Darren Johnson and Chief Craig, that incident in the early minutes might have turned out to be completely different than it did turn out. So I just wanted to personally commend you, Chief, and I hope you share that with Chief Johnson, who's out, by the way, on leading our task force for the county tonight because of the red flag weather, so he's not getting a break. But anyway, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, and thank you for the very informed announcement. Okay, any other announcements from members of the board?
I have a request. I have something I'd like to read. It's We rode the tailboard together, and we really became brothers. He was an only child, and we adopted one another. He's one of the best firemen I ever worked with, and I'd like to, I spent 7 weeks with him when hospice was in. This is his obituary. John Lawrence Taylor was born on November 6, 1937, to Jack J. Taylor Spinelli and Dixie Henrietta Taylor. Survived by a son, John J. Taylor, and wife, Julie, and Joan Estelle Mann, former wife of Vancouver, Washington, predeceased by youngest son, Michael Taylor Spinelli. John passed on May 26, 2019, in Santa Cruz, California, at the age of 81, following a 7-month battle with pancreatic cancer. Surrounded by his son and daughter-in-law, as well as longtime friends Bart Carpenter and Bill Prather, John passed peacefully in his own bed as he desired. John made the decision to stop all treatment and to have Santa Cruz Hospice assist him in his last weeks of life. Growing up in Richmond, California, he graduated Richmond Union High School in 1955. He entered the United States Air Force and became fireman that set the stage for his lifelong career of courtesy and service. Hired in January 1962 with the Richmond Fire Department, and then testing and being hired in the San Jose Fire Department in January 1966. John was promoted to engineer in December 1970 and captain in January 1974. John retired from the San Jose Fire Department on March 31st, 1993. If you had a John Taylor for a friend, you had the best friend one could ever ask for. His warm smile and true heart brightened any place he went. He was the real deal who never left a friend in need nor deferred to help those who needed assistance. If you asked him a question, be prepared for his heart. He will be missed by all who knew him. John loved to fish in lakes, streams, and his favorite, the Pacific Ocean. His love of the outdoors took him on many adventures, and he loved sharing stories of his many adventures during his lifetime. Donations in memory of John Lawrence Taylor can be made to Hospice of Santa Cruz County. A celebration of life is scheduled for October 26, 2019 at 318 Plateau, Santa Cruz, beginning at 2 p.m. and continuing till all the stories are told. Couldn't ask for a better friend, and that took me away from here, but it was worth it. Every day I was with him, he would say to me, "I'm glad you're here." And I always said I wouldn't be anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Prather. Any other announcements to mention?
Yeah, I would like to say something.
Sure.
I think it's outrageous that the refineries put our community in danger unnecessarily. We should not be vulnerable to that kind of situation. And I think we should do something about it. I don't know it's a highly political, somewhat economic challenge to take on that kind of situation. But I think it's incumbent upon us to do what we can to prevent that from happening again. You can't stop earthquakes. They just happen. There's nothing we can do about it. But this is not something that we should not be in proximity to that kind of harm.
Okay, thank you, Director Thorpe. Any other board member announcements? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to confirmation of the agenda. Are there any requested changes, modifications, deletions to the agenda?
Dr. Gabriel, I request one change to the agenda.
Sure.
Can we remove item 14? We won't have a chief's report tonight since this is our second meeting this month, and there's no additional information to provide until next month.
Do you have a consensus from the board to make that deletion of item number 14? I think, perfect. Okay, any other changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to, we don't need a motion to confirm that. Okay. Next is board correspondence. Have we received any?
No board correspondence this month. this meeting.
Next item is public communications. Public comment on any item of interest to the public that is within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board may limit comments to no more than 3 minutes per speaker. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific agenda item prior to board action thereon. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards.
Thank you. Next item is consent calendar. Approval of meeting minutes of the October 1, 2019 special meeting. It looks like this has been tabled on to till next meeting. Review of transmittals. Any questions regarding the transmittals? Just had one quick one regarding Helmets R Us 9/5/2019. I noticed that that was an expense, but do we normally get that covered via a grant or a donation?
That is correct. So we just haven't received the funds yet.
Okay. Any other questions regarding transmittals? Okay, hearing none. Move on to the next item, public hearing. The public hearing will be as follows, but let me introduce what this public hearing is going to be about. The public hearing is going to be about the fire code ordinance adoption. We're going to be holding one regarding adopting the 2019 California Fire Code. The public hearing will be conducted as follows: a staff report followed by board asks clarifying questions of staff. Then the public hearing is opened by the board. Board will take public testimony. Board closes the public hearing. Board deliberates comments. Board entertains motion to adopt or take other action. And finally, board action on the item. I guess we'll start by the staff report.
You have your staff report before you. This is the second reading of the fire code, the second time it's been brought before the board for adoption. There's been no deletions or additions to the fire code that was brought to you at the October 1st, is that right? Yes. October 1st meeting. So it is now to the board for its adoption.
Okay, next item is board asks clarifying questions of staff. Any questions hanging over from our October 1 meeting regarding this fire code adoption? Okay, hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. We'll go ahead and take any public testimony. Do we have any speaker cards or anyone wishing to speak?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, all right. So then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
You guys need to get with it.
Well, thank you for being here. Next, we'll do deliberations, comments. Any additional comments regarding the fire code? No? In that case, I will entertain a motion. Let's see, it looks like we will adopt the fire code via 2019-01 ordinance. Okay, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2019-01.
I move that we approve ordinance 2019-01.
Okay, I have a motion by Director Hill. Do I have a second?
I'll second
A second by Director Covington. Okay, we have that. Next is board action. If we can do a roll call vote.
Director Prather?
Aye.
Director Covington?
Aye.
Director Gabriel?
Aye.
Director Hill? Director Thorpe? Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect. And then we have another public hearing. This public hearing will be regarding the adoption of ordinance 2019-02, adopting engineering, plan review, and permitting fees. This public hearing will follow the same structure as the previous one, so I won't repeat that all over again. We'll start off with the staff report.
Again, you have the staff report for this in front of you. There has been no changes, additions, or deletions to the fee structure that was presented to you at the October 1st board meeting. Again, this is the same fee structure that's being used throughout the county with our cooperating other agencies. And you have ordinance 2019-02 before you for approval.
Thank you. Does the board have any clarifying questions to staff regarding this?
I have one question. Chief, I think we covered off on this last month, but I don't quite remember the answer, but I think I know what the answer was. And that is, my question is, do these fees cover all of our expenses?
They do. They cover all the fire prevention expenses currently. And we're going to do a pretty deep dive cost analysis of that during this fiscal year, so that we're able to carve out basically the fire prevention budget from our current budget as a separate standing document. So you'll see that in the 2021 budget.
Other than the expenses we incur for the contractor, are there other expenses that we incur as a result of fire prevention activities?
So I would like to start documenting and attributing the crew's time of going out and doing the business inspections towards that, and see if it'll cover their costs. Even though they're on duty, there should still be a cost attributed to their time that's involved in going out and performing these business inspections. Besides that, we have fire prevention activities that are part of prevention, school programs, the open house, and other, items like that I want to be able to list and try to identify within that budget.
So if I understand that correctly, then my understanding is that we can't make a profit on fire
cannot.
prevention.
Right.
But we may not be recouping all of our costs basically because of bookkeeping you need to put in place?
Correct. I want to make sure that we are truly recouping all those costs, and then see if within that budget there would be room to hire an additional person or personnel to be able to assist with fire prevention as we start to see the influx into Hercules, and be able to have somebody that is kind of to plan for succession for our current contract employee.
Thank you.
I just had a follow-up question to that is, so what if we do this full analysis and just determining, employee fees and stuff, and it turns out that we are making a profit off of it? How do we address that issue?
I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. There's not anywhere to give them. We would have to reduce our fees. That would be how we would do it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Okay, and with that, any other clarifying questions from the board?
Well, I would just say on that last point, an alternative is to do more as well. I mean, because you can probably never do too much to prevent fires.
There's many programs that we'd be able to roll that money into. We currently aren't supporting our own fire alarm program or smoke detector program, CO detector program. So there's many avenues for that money to be used.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, and then with that, any other questions from the board? No? Okay, in that case, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Any speaker cards or individuals wishing to speak?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, we'll close that. I probably don't have to hit this gavel now that I think about it. History is just, anyway. Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and now we'll deliberate. Any additional deliberations or comments regarding the adopting 2019-02? Hearing none, we'll go ahead. I will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 2019-02.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Director Prather, a second by Director Hill. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Prather?
Aye.
Director Covington? Director Gabriel?
Aye.
Director Hill?
Aye.
Director Thorpe? Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect. And on to the next item, which is another public hearing. Third time's a charm. It's the bulk of our agenda. So this public hearing will be regarding the benefit assessment. This is an opportunity for property owners wishing to protest the benefit assessment pursuant to the Fire District Benefit Assessment Ordinance. We'll go ahead and start with the staff report.
So each year on or about this time, the current benefit assessment comes before the board for adoption, and it's truly to see if it's not for adoption, it's for if we received any protests against the benefit assessment. We have currently at this time not received any protests. So with that, the board just needs to reaffirm the benefit assessment because we didn't receive any protests against it.
Okay, thank you. Any clarifying questions from the board to staff? Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Any speaker cards or?
I have no speaker cards.
Sounds good. We'll go ahead and close that then. Any final deliberations or comments regarding this item? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the benefit assessment pursuant to Fire District Benefit Assessment Ordinance. Okay, we have a motion by Director Covington. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Director Prather. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Prather?
Aye.
Director Covington?
Aye.
Director Gabriel?
Aye.
Director Hill?
Aye.
Director Thorpe?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect. Next item is the CalPERS resolutions. Looks like we have two resolutions before the board. We'll go and start with resolution number 2019-12, or is your staff report pertaining to both?
The staff report does pertain to both, and I'm going to turn this over to my competent assistant, Kimberly Corcoran, who is going to explain this to you.
So CalPERS, previously, they have 5 different structures, how they charge their rates. They're starting January 1st of 2020, they're reducing that to 3. So we are impacted by this change. It doesn't affect us financially, we've already budgeted for it. We just have to update our 2 resolutions. We currently have these on file with them, we just have to update them due to their change.
Thank you. Any questions from the board regarding this item?
I have a question. What's the change?
So, in 2019, I can relate this back to our department. We have employees that the premiums are charged based on a Bay Area rate and based on a Sacramento rate. Starting in 2020, those 2 regions are being combined into one.
So, Kimberly, just to make sure, I think I kind of get it now. It probably depends on where our employees live.
Correct.
And so then we pay rates based on where they live and their, what's that word that people are always using? Conflating the regions or something like that into one mega region? And so we're now part of Region 1, which includes the former Sacramento and Bay Area regions.
Exactly.
And so curiously, it didn't end up between the 2 costs. It ended up a couple cents higher than the highest one. Right? But who's going to quibble about 24 cents, right?
I don't know.
Somebody might.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and just to clarify, I know you probably said it right, is like, we've already budgeted for this, it's all said and
We
done.
already had all the rates that came out before we did the budget, so all these numbers are in our budget.
Perfect. Okay, any other questions for staff regarding the CalPERS resolutions? Okay, I guess we'll just, any speaker cards regarding this item?
I have no speaker cards.
All right. In that case, we'll do these one by one. I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2019-12.
So moved.
I have a motion by Director Covington. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Director Prather. Can we do a roll call vote?
Director Prather?
Aye.
Director Covington?
Aye.
Director Gabriel?
Aye.
Director Hill?
Aye.
Director Thorpe? Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect. We'll do the next resolution, a motion to adopt resolution number 2019-13. Do I have a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2019-13. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. Second by Director Covington. We'll go ahead, any speaker cards pertaining to that?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Prather? Director Covington?
Aye.
Director Gabriel?
Aye.
Director Hill?
Aye.
Director Thorpe? Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect. On to item number 12, employee compensation. We'll go ahead and have staff report out on that.
So you have a staff report before you. This is in regards to compensation for Kimberly Corcoran and for Battalion Chief Darren Johnson. It's within our policy that when the represented employees receive any type of a increase or decrease in their compensation package, then that would also be reflected to the administrative employees. And so that is what is before you, is just the authorization from the board for me to go ahead and make that increase in their salaries.
Okay.
So just so I understand, so because the line personnel received a raise, this is the authorization to give administrative staff a raise, basically?
Exactly.
Okay. And is their raise in line, is it exactly what the line personnel received as well?
They receive exactly the same amount, and that's due, like I said, due to policy.
Gotcha.
As these raises, have they already been budgeted in with that increased request that we had last month or last meeting?
They have.
Okay. Any other questions?
Chief, is Darren Johnson not represented?
Is not.
He's not part of, what is it, UCOA, or?
He is not.
Why is that?
I
Our battalion chiefs have never been?
Yes. Historically, the
Yes, they
battalion
haven't,
chiefs
or
here
yes?
have not been represented.
Is that unique to us, or is that?
I don't know that answer.
It really varies by per union.
Huh.
Like Hayward's battalion chiefs aren't in their union.
Well, I guess what that has me wondering is,
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
is it safe to assume that, well, how long's he been a battalion chief?
4 years.
4
Just
years.
going on 4 years.
So is it safe to assume that that position has been treated essentially similar to the others in terms of raises, that kind of thing? I guess there hasn't been one for 10 years, right? So it's not like we're looking at correcting any disparity or anything like that? It's treated the same?
The history is saying, we did have that 1% increase 6 years ago, I believe it was, and the same act happened.
So it's applied to the battalion chief position as well?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
May I jump in? You kind of think of him and Kimberly as the unrepresented employees. And so they're asking for a me too. That's all.
So can I have another question?
Oh,
So did
just
they have to
wanna-
ask?
No,
Or are we
no.
offering it?
Well, that's why that's why the chief has to come to you to confirm that he can do this under the policy, which is what the policy says.
Just to clarify, it applies retroactively, much like the MOU. Okay, perfect. Okay, any other questions regarding employee compensation to confirm this minute order? No, any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Prather? Aye. Director Covington?
Aye.
Director
Oh,
Gabriel?
wait, I'm sorry, we need a motion.
Oh,
Okay, may I entertain a motion to adopt the minute order granting raise to administrative personnel, safety management, and admin personnel?
I move that we adopt the minute order authorizing these 2 raises.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Hill. Do I have a second? Second by Director Covington. Now we'll do a roll call vote.
again, okay. Director Prather? Aye. Director Covington?
Aye.
Director Gabriel?
Aye.
Director Hill?
Aye.
Director Thorpe? Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next item is the ad hoc committee. We mentioned this last week in our sort of workshop discussion thing that happened last month or earlier this month. So we're looking for an ad hoc committee, 2 ad hoc committee members to sort of lead the strategic planning efforts leading up to a like 1-day seminar sometime. I forgot the timeline that we had, but sometime soon we'd like to have some sort of a strategic planning day, workshop day type of thing. Yeah, so we're just looking for 2 people, if anyone wanted to nominate anyone.
Director, I'd like to serve on that committee.
Okay,
Strategic planning.
we have I guess, so you're nominating yourself, Director Prather?
I guess if that's the case,
Yeah. Okay, we have a nomination to have Director Prather. Do I have any other nominations? I mean, I'd like to serve on that.
I nominate our chairman.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Okay, we have any other nominations? Can't believe I'm writing my own name down. It's weird. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and just do one at a time. So, we need a motion to.
That's correct. You could do it as the board approving the formation of the committee and it being composed of yourself and Director Prather. That could be one motion.
Okay. In that case, I will entertain a motion to form the Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee, appointing Director Prather and myself as members of the committee.
So moved.
I have a motion by Director Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion by Director Hill, second by Director Covington. We'll go ahead and do a roll call. Oh, any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards.
Okay. Don't want to get in trouble for that. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Prather?
Aye.
Director Covington?
Aye.
Director Gabriel?
Aye.
Director Hill?
Aye.
Director Thorpe? Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then just as a direction to staff, if we can do like a poll between me, Director Prather, and Chief Craig to sort of date availability to meet, discuss that. It could be telephonic as well. Okay, that's taken care of. We're skipping Fire Chief report per the board confirmation. Staff reports.
No additional staff reports. I would like to probably just parrot again what Director Hill said, and not in regards to myself, but in regards to my staff and to the personnel of Rodeo-Hercules. They performed more than admirably in a situation that we don't normally encounter. It's only due to the many, many years of refinery firefighting school that Phillips 66 has sponsored us to attend, that we were able to handle that situation professionally and with as much haste as we could at the time. But again, I just want to make sure that my personnel, which I want the board to know how much our personnel performed, like I said, absolutely admirably that afternoon, way into that evening and into the next morning, and helped to support Crockett-Carquinez Fire District in their efforts.
Thank you so much for the staff report. Next item is board member reports, LAFCO. I don't think we have anything to update. Last meeting we had.
Canceled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, next item, Measure O Oversight Committee report. Hello.
Good evening, gentlemen. I am here as Vice Chair of the Measure O Committee. The Chairman, Paul Freese, is attending to a family matter, so he's going to be gone. He's been gone about a month so far, and he'll be gone for another month or two. So I've assumed the duties as Chair. We did not have our meeting in October because we did not have quorum. I was in Hawaii. And we did not have our meeting, our regular scheduled meeting, which was on the schedule for the 6th. Looking at my calendar here. Nope, 16th, because we did not have our information in our packages. Mr. Freese was going to attend via teleconference, and that was arranged, but we didn't have any of the documents, so there was no way that the three of us could prepare to have the meeting. The three of us now being Marie Bowman, that everyone has met, plus myself, plus Paul Freese. So because of that, we were able to reschedule a regular Measure O meeting that's going to be on the 30th of October, so a week from today, at 3 o'clock. at our normal meeting point, which is at Station 76. And we'll go over our agenda has already been posted along with all of our documents that we need. Everything is in line now, and so we're going to have our meeting then. And for November, the 20th looks like it's our scheduled date. I don't see any reason why we would not have that. Even if Mr. Freeze is not available in town, he said that he will be available via teleconference. So we will again have quorum.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Annie, I don't know if it's a question really of you, but maybe between you and the chief, I guess I'm sort of thinking about what is it, we're down to 3 board members. One of them has got some family issues, and could happen to anybody at any time.
Sure. Well, that's what happened to our original third member.
Right.
He had to excuse himself because of family issues.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, I know you guys had taken on some recruiting efforts on your own, but Chief, I'm wondering, given, in light of all this, what it is that we are doing or can do to redouble our efforts for recruitment? I think the last time we talked about it, which has been a while, we talked about wanting to get up to 5 committee members. And I'm just wondering what we might, if we're doing anything, I guess is the question, and if not, what could we be doing to help these guys out?
Well, when the Measure Oversight Committee did have an attended meeting where they were actually, able to hold a meeting, they have put together, it's not really a committee, but to do public outreach. And so I kind of stopped any additional efforts from staff because Measure O was going to reach out themselves. And they had a list of different public agencies and public venues that they were going to attend and do this outreach. So no additional efforts from that point has been undertaken by the district or by staff.
And that's correct. The chief, based on that meeting that the 3 of us attended, we were going to do some type of formalized outreach. But then, excuse me, then we had a series of events, vacations, family issues, other family issues. And so all of that was pushed aside. The meeting that we're going to have next week on the agenda is to talk about, instead of doing something formal, we're going to talk about doing something informal. And I was talking to one of the board members that to see if we can, the 3 of us can get together somehow and not necessarily go in unison to a meeting, but go individually in a very informal atmosphere and say, hey, I'm from Measure O. Go to the different homeowners associations, say, we're really interested in getting a couple of more committee members. This is what we do. Here's some applications. Please consider joining our group. So we are going to talk about that at our meeting next week, and we're going to finalize something and actually have something for report for you in November.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I have a comment about it.
Sure.
I think that's great. To me, it sounds like above and beyond the call of duty. I think, I mean, I don't think it's the committee's responsibility to sort of see to its population. And I'd like us to, Chief, to look at what we could do to give them some assistance. I think it's great that you guys are out there, beating the bushes, but it seems like there's something we ought to be able to do to support them. A variety of things come to mind off the top of my head, but one of them might be to take out an ad in one of our local throwaway newspapers. Maybe we could arm our firefighters, or at least the captains, with knowledge that we have this unique need, and maybe when they're out there in the public at Lucky's and they're accosted by citizens, maybe they could bring it up and suggest that they might want to get involved in their fire district. I don't know exactly if there's any limitations on what our firefighters can do, but somehow it seems to me that we have to do our part too. I don't know what anybody else thinks about it, but it seems like it shouldn't all be on the backs of the Measure O committee. I reserve the right to be wrong, though, if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's not, this isn't because of lack of effort, I think we've done a lot of things to try to engage in recruitment efforts for the Measure Oversight Committee, but yeah, I mean, given that there's only 3 members now, and when one is gone, all of a sudden you don't have a quorum.
Right.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's a dangerous place we're in right now. I'm not suggesting that we haven't done, that the chief and staff haven't done things to support the committee. That's not my point at all. It's just that
Yeah.
now we're in this risky spot where I think it's time to redouble our efforts.
Yeah,
And maybe think about different things we could
I think
do.
at this rate, we've probably octupled our efforts, the number of times we doubled our efforts. But yeah, so I agree, like, absolutely, we need to do our best to try to fill those 2 vacant seats and hopefully make some moves of this.
From
I
the
mean-
Measure O committee perspective, we've never seen it as something that's strictly a staff situation to take care of. We see it as a community. We're part of the community. We want to go out and talk to our other people and talk to our neighbors again. And instead of just being almost a hidden committee, actually be out there. And that's why we were thinking of going to a couple of the homeowners associations. Interestingly enough, the Voices of Rodeo was supposed to meet, when was it, Chief? Last Tuesday when we had the incident? And they were going to have a speaker from Phillips 66 talk about safety concerns, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was scheduled for 6 o'clock, and the incident went down at 1:50. So they canceled their meeting, but I was already going to go as just myself, Annie Ziff, not necessarily as a member because I hadn't talked to anybody else on the committee, but go to them, since that is one of 3 groups that are active in the Rodeo area, go to them and just say, hey, I'm on the committee, this is what we do, and I was going to bring some applications too. So I was going to do that. That's, again, informal. I think it's going to be more that we have to be an informal type of situation, go out and talk to other people, talk to our friends, talk to our neighbors, as you folks have done, to get some interest in joining the committee. I don't see it as staff has to take the whole thing on concern. Chief has really given us as much information and as much assistance as possible. He gave us a copy of all the homeowners associations and when they met, and I was just looking at that again today, so we have an idea of what meetings we could go to and who we could contact. So it's just a matter of getting the I don't want to use gumption, but getting up and actually doing it, getting it done. The only thing is, it's the end of the year, but I see that this is something we need to do. We, as a committee, see it as our responsibility to get our other friends and neighbors to come and join us.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I think one thing too is the board also toyed with ideas of like stipends, and so there are other options that kind of, make the Measure O Oversight Committee less of like a cost or anything like that, just to make it as easy as possible. I think that's something that we as the board should look at.
Well, Director Gabriel, I do have a report on that.
Oh, yes.
I was going to wait till you were finished.
Oh, perfect.
We've done the research. Unfortunately, under Measure O, you cannot pay stipends to this particular committee. We analyzed the ordinance and also against state law. So you can't pay stipends. You can offer reimbursement for travel expenses. That's the extent of what you can do. I don't believe you're going to ask them to travel around the state or anything like that, but the reimbursement for expenses, I mean, there are other things that but you can't pay them a stipend.
Okay, well, never mind on that, but other options like that can come before the board.
The stipend thing, Director Hill and I just briefly chatted about it last month when it came up, and the committee never thought that would be a possibility. It was but nice, but
Yeah.
definitely not. The only thing that we were concerned with is to have our to have our documents and our reports and our agenda, instead of us having to run off 30, 60, or the last time I think it was like 100 pages, we've asked staff through Chief if we could have those given to us. And they've come up with a really nice way of doing it, is that the packages are prepared, they're put into a manila envelope, and then they're left in the training room. And since we're all local, we can just scoot on into the training room at any given time and pick up the packages well before the meeting. And also, everything has been posted timely, so what we needed to do to kind of, to get more things in a line and have as little extra actions that are needed on the committee members, the only actions being having to print all of the documents and having the things timely so that we could go over them. Staff's taking care of all that. We're good.
Perfect. It's good to hear. Thank you for
Well,
reporting
then,
back on that.
Mr. Chairman, then if I could just have one final thought. I'm all about helping not only the Measure O committee, but me personally, but our chief. And so I'm going to start up my Saturday morning coffee meetings for the community, where we found one committee member. And I will be looking for more potential committee members. And I challenge my fellow board members, who all in their own rights are very well connected in the community, to get out there and identify some candidates as well.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah, and just as an aside, Director Hill, I'd like to accompany you because again, then I'm a face of the committee, a person that's on the committee, one of the residents, one of their neighborhood people. And I could.
When we leave, we'll look at calendars and we'll figure out what Saturday we're going to do.
That would be great. I think that's the way to do it, is to do something together.
Oh, no, we can show up with.
Sure.
No more than, what was it, no more than two of us?
All right, exactly.
So, but
So,
About,
yes,
That's great. Thank you.
thank you.
what about Director Hill's suggestion of placing an ad?
Whatever staff and whatever you directors think would be another way to get the attention of the committees, or excuse me, of the community. I don't know, truthfully, if community people are going to be looking at, what did you say, Directors, throwaway papers? Well, a long time ago, we used to have a real paper here in our area, and that's, I guess, pretty much gone by the wayside. I really don't know offhand if there's physical ways to attract somebody's attention anymore.
About in the marketplace. That comes around
Oh.
everybody.
Yes.
Next door.
Yeah. We read it every time.
Now,
Nextdoor.com.
yes, that is something that even I look at and have read. That might be something would,
One thing we know is that if nobody knows about this, they're not going to volunteer.
correct, exactly. The reason I'm on it is because a friend of mine called and said that it would be something that I could do for the community, and that's why I was on it. Otherwise, I didn't know anything about it.
And fun, too.
It's great fun and nice people.
all right. Any other questions, comments? from the
Another
board?
opportunity we'll have next year is when we start our CERT classes, we'll have quite a few people coming through that. And
saw
we'll be
that.
able to introduce it to them also.
Perfect.
That announcement just came out, and that's something that I didn't think about it initially, but that would be the perfect place for the Measure O folk to be there as part of the CERT qualifications, but then say, oh, by the way, I'm a Measure O person, and it's really, would be nice if you guys could join. That's great, Chief. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annie.
Okay, now we'll adjourn to closed session. Oh, no, sorry. Ad hoc, I'm skipping ahead. Ad hoc board committee reports. Reserve program ad hoc committee report. Anything to report? Okay. It doesn't look like there's anything to report. Nothing to report on the Prop 172 ad hoc. Local 1230 correspondence. I don't see them here. Did they give anything in writing? Nope. Okay. And then we will adjourn to closed session.
There were no reportable actions taken in closed session.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 23, review and approve amendment number 1 to Fire Chief's employment agreement, possible action item. Do you have a staff report?
Yes. Chair Gabriel, Richard P. Arota, General Counsel. As required by the Brown Act, I'm required to verbally provide to you what the changes are proposed in the fire chief's contract as your employee. He is your employer and you're the chief executive of the district. What is proposed as of July 1st, 2019, is that the fire chief's base salary will be paid at he will be paid a 3.5% increase to the current base. Pursuant to the same MOU as Local 1230, as of July 1st, 2020, he would be paid a 3.5% increase to the base salary as of that date. So those are the proposed changes to his compensation. There are no other suggested or recommended changes to his compensation. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And just to clarify too, that this is a contractually obligated increase that coincides with the local 1230 3.5% increase to base salary. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none. Do I have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards.
I gotta ask. All right, in that case, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on, oh, sorry, may I entertain a motion to approve amendment number 1 to Fire Chief's employment agreement? Motion by Director Covington, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Director Hill. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Prather? Director Covington?
Aye.
Director Gabriel?
Aye.
Director Hill?
Aye.
Director Thorpe? Motion passes 5-0.
Perfect. Any items or item number 24, requests for future agenda items? Do we have any requests for future agenda items?
Just to clarify, you will have a closed session to continue the performance evaluation of the chief at the next regular board meeting.
Thank you. Any other closed session, or excuse me, requests for future agenda items? Hearing none, we adjourn this meeting at 9:32, or 8:32.